What is up, everybody? I'm No Lex Given, and today we are wrapping up Wonder Waddle Week with one final look at a hero that I think really resembles Wonder Waddle. And yesterday, we looked at Wonder Waddle themselves. So what hero could we possibly be looking at today if we've already actually covered the real Wonder Waddle? Well, one thing that I've been saying since the Wonder Waddle nerf is I think on the old Wonder Waddle, because it was so powerful, people used to play the hero very greedy, very loose, very silly, and you could get away with it. And that's definitely fine and definitely fun, but it just meant that I don't think that the hero was actually as strong as a lot of people realized because they were too busy just trying to do silly stuff. And today's hero, I think, is very similar to that. This hero opens up a lot of different decision trees, and because of that, there's a lot of room to make mistakes because you've got so many more decisions to make in a turn than you would on your typical hero. I'm giving you some time so you can try to figure out and guess who I might be talking about. But today, we're gonna look at some Zippy the Zombie games. This hero is just so powerful and so fun to try to force Hatball on. There's some really fantastic stuff that you can do, and because of that, I wind up forcing Hatball a little more than I should when I'm playing Zippy the Zombie. It's a powerful hero in its own right. It can do powerful things in the end game, of course, as well, but Hatball is always just such a fun strategy to play, so I do try to force it wherever possible. And I think I'm going to just skip through this first game, and then we'll take a look at a second game that goes a little bit better. I actually have a third game as well that I was going to showcase today, but after thinking about it, I think that it is special enough to just warrant its own video. So you'll probably see that later next week. That one is definitely going to be something to get excited for. But let's focus on the here and now. We wind up picking up a Lonely Prince on 2.2, and then we Genie's Wish into a second Forbidden Fruit. So taking a little bit of damage there, but we get to tick down the Cindy and we get to play a pair of 5/5s this turn. Unfortunately, we do take a little bit more damage from this Horde Dragon. They also had some Frog Princes supported by a Baby Root. So we're down to 30 health, not doing super great, and that should probably be like the sign that I need to start playing a little bit less greedy. And now we do pick up a Baby Root. I think that we could have gone for a greedier play this turn, which would have been a True Love's Kiss on the Ogre Princess or the Doubly. One thing that does open up, which is a lot of fun, there are a bunch of good characters on level 4, so you're pretty likely to True Love's Kiss into a good character, and then you can start evil twinning that just a turn earlier. That can be a bunch of fun, but I also really love evil twinning those level 3 characters like Ogre Princess, because then you can start potentially trying to find a crystal ball. And that's what we're going to be trying to do this game. Once we already have this one Wizard's Familiar going, it incentivizes me to pick up some more mages. Also because I want to cast some spells to activate Cindy. So we're going to pick up 2 more mages this turn, another Wizard's Familiar and a Spellweaver. And that's what really gets us down the mage train. Though you'll see, I do wind up playing it a little bit too greedy. I'm skipping ahead through some of the combats here. I wind up connecting off of the Wizard's Familiar. We grab a tier 2 treasure off of that, and I do go for the Secret Stash, which I think is a good treasure to pick up. I do debate picking up the Spinning Wheel, but one of the reasons that I like to pick up Secret Stash while I'm playing Zippy is we're going to grab so many treasures on this hero that I want to grab one of those treasures that's going to go away. And similarly, because you grab so many treasures on the hero, I do think that the Skipping Stone could be a good treasure to pick up, but I wind up skipping on the treasure entirely. And part of my thought process there was kind of that we could make a tier 3 treasure off of Ogre Princess or Spellweaver. I was really rolling for Spellweaver though, and the key thing here is, and this is what we're going to look at in the next game, which was actually played before this one and definitely influences this one. If you can grab a good upgraded Spellweaver, you can do a lot with that as Zippy the zombie. So there is a huge part of me that wants to triple this Spellweaver, have a good Spellweaver, and then cast all of my evil twins on it, which will allow me to slowly assemble Hatball. And it does wind up working. Just to skip ahead a little bit, we wind up picking up a Merlin's hat. We grab that off of a... What do we actually... Oh, yeah. We grab the Merlin's hat off of the Spellweaver triple. Then I triple some golden chickens and wind up picking up a locked chest for another tier 3 treasure. Now, similarly to Waddle, I think that locked chest is not really what you want to be doing on Zippy the Zombie. Really just for the full reason that you can find treasures faster than you'd be able to create a treasure in 3 turns. So I think that is kind of a waste of time, but what can you do? I'm going to wind up firing off a Merlin's test on this friendly spirit. That'll add some nice stats to the board, and then I just used my evil twin to make another copy of Spellweaver. That way the friendly spirit is likely to land on a ranged unit, which I felt gave us decent odds. However, my opponent has quite the comp over there with a... what's that called? A Empress P and also a baby dragon to take out my best character. So a little bit awkward there. I will wind up picking up another prized pig, and then I will make a friendly spirit triple just because I want to get some stats onto this board, and we'll evil twin on the friendly spirit. Could have gone for Sky Castle. That's definitely the greedy play if you really want to force Hatball. But I just don't think that that is what we need to do in this one. So I'm not going to go for the Sky Castle. I'm just going to go for the Moonsong Horn. Try to keep these treasures flowing, these mage-related comps, and then I will sell off of my Friendly Prince, and there I find the Crystal Ball. So I'm going to toss the lock chest for that. So now I've got Hatball, and Zippy definitely helped me get here. I'm not hurting that much as far as health. We're at 19 health. The rest of the lobby is also hovering around 20. So it's definitely still possible that we can turn this one around and actually turn it into something good. Let's see how this Goldilocks is doing. They found a Masquerade Ball on their 5.0 turn. So they have got some trees, and they've got some scam units as well. This is going to be tough to battle through. Ancient Sarcophagus is looking really, really strong, and they are able to scam and take out my entire comp. So we take a little bit more damage even so, but now we're Hatballing and we're back at it. We're just going to cast as many spells as we possibly can. And yeah, we didn't clear... Actually, we did clear a decent amount of my opponent's units, but not enough to earn ourselves an evil twin last turn. I'm just going to cast a few more spells onto this friendly spirit to wrap things up. And then one more thing that we could do is we could put in this third Spellweaver instead of the prized pig. I'm not actually sure what I go with. I know this is a greedy game, but it looks like I do wind up playing the Spellweaver. And then I just frontline the pig because it's more stats. I can't worry about donating gold. I got to worry about my health total at this point. But I'm just hoping that the friendly spirit will land on a ranged character, and that will be enough to potentially get us out of this one. And it is pretty strong. We now have 2 rather large Spellweavers. Is that going to be enough? It's going to be really, really close, but I think that that will be just enough to let us find the win against Horde Dragon. So that's sweet. I'll pick up an Ogre Princess. Don't really need to. Honestly, probably should have just not, and tried to focus a little bit more on mages to round things out. We do get to pick up one more Spellweaver this turn, and I'll sell off the Ogre Princess to make that happen. And then I will cast Evil Twin on another Spellweaver. One of the cool things with the Evil Twin while you're Zippy the Zombie is that Evil Twin makes other spells appear in the shop, which is pretty cool. Then I'm going to cast a Beauty's Influence on Aeon. And there's something very specific that I am attempting to open up for the end game by casting a Beauty's Influence on an Aeon. Again, we're going to look at that a little bit more in Game 2. This game was inspired by Game 2, like I said, which was played first, and once you see the possibilities of what's available as Zippy the Zombie, definitely makes you start dreaming big and dreaming and playing as if you are a Wonder Waddle, which can be kind of a problem, as I've talked about. But we are going to wind up taking a little bit more damage, unfortunately, but now we've got a little bit of a reprieve as we get to play up against the Ghost. So the Ghost should potentially let us farm pretty close to activating another Evil Twin. And then hopefully we can just cast some more spells in the meantime as well to continue to get as strong as we possibly can. I'll wind up using a True Love's Kiss on the Friendly Spirit. That gives me a Tweedle. Not super impressive, but it is something. It's some reasonable amount of stats here. And yeah, just going to see if we can cast a few more spells to round things out. Here we are up against the Ghost, playing up against actual Wonder Waddle, but we'll see how we are as Zippy the Zombie, the Wonder Waddler. We are going to get the sleigh with our first Aeon, and then looks like our mages should be big enough to take down this ghosty guy, so should be okay here, but like I said, we are not going to be strong enough to fully deliver on this one. We'll see how long we can stay in it though, and we'll watch the rest of this one before we go into the next one. One interesting thing to note is that once you have the never mind. I'm not even going to bring it up. I was just going to say that once you've got like Aeons and things, it's better to keep your Spellweavers separate. I will talk on it for a little bit here. So that way all of your Spellweavers are individually getting buffs rather than combine them. But I needed to combine them there because I've just been out of space on the bench and on the board, having too many Spellweavers and things. So had to combine those to get that. And honestly, this board looks pretty powerful. Our spells can cost as much as 5 less now that we've picked up the Moonsong Horn. We didn't find the Forking Rod. That really, I think, would have actually been enough to allow this game to pop off. So potentially want to churn through some more tier 4 treasures, but it's hard because you really want to spend all of your evil twins creating Spellweavers, so that way you can just continue to be as strong as possible. So that's kind of what we were looking at there. This one wasn't up against the Ghost. That was up against the Fates. We take them out, and then we are up against Goldilocks, which had some really good things cooking a few turns ago. We'll see how she is doing now, but we are going to be able to cast a few more spells in the meantime here, and we'll see where that gets us. I wind up sharding my Croc just because, like, I don't know, there was nothing really else that I had to do for it for the turn, and we've got enough other mages on our bench and stuff that I am fine just sharding that away and not really caring about it. We have got, you really don't run out of mages when you are playing Zippy Ball. You get access to a bunch of them there, but we are going to be out of spells for the turn as we finish off with this ride of the Valkyrie, and I think we made a pretty good board, to be totally honest. You take a look, I mean, we had a 94% chance to win the previous combat, so ultimately I think that we're doing pretty good. I do wind up moving my Spellweaver to the first position just to make my board a little bit stronger against what I thought might have been a strong opponent, and I was right. This is a strong opponent. An extremely strong opponent with triple upgraded Pumpkin King plus an Ancient Sarcophagus. This one's going to be tough to not get scammed through. They steal our Aeon twice, and then they even take out our Spellweavers. We really did not have a chance there. They had a 96% chance to win. That comp was kind of busted. Honestly, I think it was still a pretty good showing for Zippy in that game. I think that we did some nice stuff, but in this game we're going to be doing even better stuff. So this will be the main game that we take a look at in this video. And like I said, I still have another Zippy the Zombie game in the cooker. I'm just going to wait on that. I'm not going to showcase that today because I think that these other games are fun and a little bit more cohesive. Both of these games are playing out pretty similar with Cinderella. I don't think I'm going to go for the Wizard's Familiar in this one. Not going to go as greedy immediately. But still, Cinderella is always a good character, and at the very least, if you make it really, really far into the game with a Cindy, then you can just activate her by casting your evil twins. Kind of a silly way to do it, but if you make it to 3.2 or 4.0 and your Cindy is still not activated, you can evil twin some things and grab a tier 2 treasure for free. So that is an option that you have access to. Up against a Sad Drac this turn. They're going to hit us for some damage and even style on us with a 4 Glory. A little bit unfortunate, but we'll get to pick up 3 characters now, and that'll make us at least a little bit more powerful. Up against a 33 health, the Fates. Gotta be feeling pretty good about that one. Let's jump ahead briefly and see what the Fates is up to. And looks like we're going to have no time, or no trouble, rather, taking them out and hitting them for some damages. And then we see a Spellweaver. We also see a Potion of Heroism. We see a lot of good stuff in this shop. I really like the Lucky this early on, and I also kind of like the Queen of Hearts and the Mummy, but ultimately I wind up just going for the Queen of Hearts and the Mummy, the 2 evil characters. One thing that's interesting on Zippy the Zombie, I do like to take good tier 3 characters because that's how you can grab some treasures. However, I also really like to grab some evil ones like Queen of Hearts because you're going to be making more evil characters when you play Zippy the Zombie. And there's like a really interesting decision point. Say you have a good witch and a wicked witch. Which witch would you go for on Zippy the Zombie? Because those can both be really interesting options. But here is where I do decide to Spellweave it up. Both because these are both evil characters, so they're going to be able to pump up my Queen of Hearts, but then also just because it is a pair. And a pair's good. The main thing that I'm going to be looking for is Beauty's Influence when I'm playing Zippy the Zombie, and I feel like there are 2, it's just such a good spell. You are much more likely to find it while you're still level 3, so that does incentivize you to roll a little bit while you're playing this hero, because once you hit level 4, the spell pool is just a little bit wider, so it can be that much harder to find. But we can potentially do some really, really silly stuff with that. We'll see if we can make anything happen. We are going to take a little bit of damage from the grandmother, and unfortunately, we also do not activate our evil twin. So we're going to have to wait one more turn. Though we didn't really have anything good to twin anyways, so it's not a huge deal. I'll pick up Merlin's Hat after that, and then we are going to be casting a Witch's Brew on one of our Spellweavers. And this definitely, I think, helps to set up where we're going with this. I think both of these games, we wind up getting an early Merlin's Hat while just kind of having some Spellweavers that we weren't really trying to force. Maybe I was trying to force it a little bit more in that first game. Like I said, I played that one second, so that was already after I had seen everything that I'd done in this game, and that kind of happens in Storybook Brawl. You play one game, and then you're like, okay, well, I want to play a game like that. That was fun. And you wind up kind of repeating yourself there. So, we'll take a look now at like the predecessor, how we got there, the genesis of that B-ball idea. And we do get to see our first evil twin here on 4.0. And I think a pretty good target for evil twin on Zippy the Zombie is generally going to be Nutcracker, to grab an evil copy of that. Interestingly, Noble Steed could let us grab some tier 5 treasures, though I like tier 4 treasures more, especially if we're going to try to play some type of mage build. From there I grabbed Corrupted Heartwood. Probably a mistake, to be honest, but that is quickly remedied when we get to pick up a crystal ball this turn. But the main reason that I picked up that corrupted heartwood is because then both of my nutcrackers would be pumping up my Queen of Hearts. Ultimately, probably should have just skipped on that treasure, used it for econ. Making your trees evil makes it much more difficult to play Zippy the zombie, so I definitely don't recommend that, though it is going to work out somewhat okay for us here. But more importantly, we've got both of these nutcrackers cracking away. Not going to get, super lucky on those nutcracker hits. We get 2 and 1, but I think if we power these guys up a little bit more, we might have a better chance of activating them in the future, and we can do that a little bit with this hat ball, finishing off the turn with a 4 glory. I am also going to play the Queen of Hearts. I'm not sure if this was the right play. I think it was probably just better to backline the Spellweaver because it had 22 attack, and that is quite strong, but we can do some strong and fun things with the Queen of Hearts as well. One other thing that I'll note is I was trying to put more preference on powering up. I gave the Flourish, and I'm giving the double support bonus to the Nutcracker that has more work to go. That way I could potentially try to find the Forking Rod off of that. I did mention that in the last game, that maybe if I had hunted for some tier 4 treasures a little bit harder, then maybe we could have done something even more powerful with that game. I'm also really on the lookout for Beauty's Influence, so that'll be a nice one if we can pick that up as well. We'll get a few more hits off the Nutcracker, but some really awkward combat RNG with that frontline Spellweaver. We actually do get a win though, and now both of the Nutcrackers are at 1 tick left. So those are going to be really close, and I believe that this turn we find the Beauty's Influence. So now we can start making copies of Spellweaver, and that is going to allow us to cast a bunch of spells. I'll take a look for Forking Rod, not going to find it, but we do find an Evil Eye, which we can now use to give those Nutcrackers even more stats and start trying to grab a Forking Rod off of those. I'm going to finish off the turn with a Masquerade Ball and lock onto an Aeon. Pretty similar to the last game that I showcased, but one thing that I didn't really talk about too much in that one is where I'm trying to go. And then I actually wind up picking up the Aeon. I felt like I was strong enough this turn that I could just greed for it, and that way next turn I can just spend all my cash on spells and not have to worry about locking onto a shop with no spells. But the really interesting thing that we can do here, because we did get this hat ball pretty early on in the game, obviously we are going to look for Forking Rod, but when that fails, because we wind up not finding a Forking Rod off of either of these treasures here, what I'm now trying to do is, one, make a bunch of Spellweavers, cast a bunch of spells as well. I will try to do that. We'll cast this healing potion and some other things. I will wind up using the Evil Twin on a Spellweaver just to add more spells to the shop, but like I said, it is better to keep those separate for as long as possible. And then I wind up finding another Aeon, but what I would like to do here, also, the sooner you complete the triple on your Spellweavers, the sooner you see what your treasure is, and then you can make decisions based off of that. What I'd really, really love to do right now is triple some Spellweavers, find a treasure map, and then potentially Beauty's Influence the Aeon, use my Evil Twins to triple an Aeon, and grab a tier 7 treasure. And that could be really, really powerful and let us do some crazy stuff in the end game so that we can truly experience the absurdity that is this hero. So that's kind of like the overall game plan. We'll see how close we get to getting there. I am going to wind up picking up an Aeon just cause, but we'll be able to find more. And like I said, it's actually better to triple the Aeon first and then put the Beauty's Influence on it, because then you can grab a whole bunch more no limit with all of your Evil Twins and not worry about, it's like a very weird thing, if you've got some Evil Twin copies in there, then you Beauty's Influence, it's going to stay evil. So that's just something to pay attention to. But I do think that they are actually planning on buffing Zippy the zombie in the next patch, and just saying that when you Beauty's Influence something, it turns good no matter what, no matter how many evil twins are also in the mix. So that should be a really strong buff for the hero. Speaking of buff, we are looking quite strong right now. We are going to be able to battle through these Medusas with not too much of a problem at all. We will wind up losing one of our Spellweavers, but we're still able to take my opponent down. It actually was a relatively close combat, but we are going to be able to grab a win regardless. I'm going to feed my Heartwood Elder to the Kraken. Then I'm going to keep on cracking and casting some more spells here, and I'm not going to worry about the Wizard's Familiar. We are just going to find some more mages once we hit level 6, or maybe we'll just Evil Twin and grade some more mages. I do consider picking up Baba Yaga, but I just know that I'm going to be able to make Spellweavers out of the rest of this board, and I'm not in any particular rush. I would say the first game where I potentially played a little bit greedy, this game we just got super lucky. We found the Spellweavers, we found the Hat Ball all very early on in the game. And now our board's ridiculous. We even have a Shoulder Fairies upgraded, which brings a ton of additional stats to the board. That is looking at Aeon as the good unit, and Spellweaver, the second one, as our highest attack evil unit. So that is an absolutely massive Shoulder Fairies. I don't really have to worry about losing because of that, and I can afford to play just 6 units on most of my turns here without really much cause for concern. I'm going up in health as I cast all of these health potions, so I think that we are going to be quite alright. No Evil Twin for us this turn, but we do hit up to 37 health, so that is pretty impressive. And then I just decide to lock onto this Evil Twin. And here's where I really want to make that Spellweaver plus Aeon dream happen. I'll pick up Tiny as my last unit, though I actually do debate for a second. One, if I want to like keep rolling, but the other thing is, do I actually even want to play a Tiny up against a Sadrak? I ultimately decide that I do, and then again I'm locking onto this Evil Twin because it's a 4-cost Aeon or Spellweaver, and I want to just make this board as many Aeons and Spellweavers as I possibly can. Try to find a treasure map, try to find a tier 7 treasure. We could find a black prism, or I don't know, a bunch of other things would all be very powerful and very cool. Tiny winds up trading with a Time Flies, so that was a pretty good use of Tiny. And we were actually even close on that combat to getting a second Slay with Aeon, so we were very, very well off there. We're going to wind up casting a few more spells, hanging on to this pair of Spellweavers for a second, and then I am going to triple up on the Spellweaver, and again there I'm looking for the treasure map. Unfortunately, I was unable to find it, so not going to be able to do anything super crazy off the walls this game. Though, I mean, we might have a little bit of time. We are going to be in the finals by the looks of it up against this grandmother that has 37 health, so it might take 3 combats to defeat them, but honestly we are looking pretty strong. We just played against them a few turns ago. They can scam us with Medusas and things, but we just have a whole board of characters that all need to be scammed, so my opponent is in for an uphill battle here. We'll see what they can do. They have found some wombats in disguise, and they are trying to make use of that with their grandmother hero power or big bad wolf hero power, but it's just not going to be enough. Medusa gets to take out one of our characters, but the rest of our characters are just way too dang big, and we hit them for 18 down to 19. Celestial Tiger goes out to the Ghost, and now we are in the finals against this big bad wolf here. So we've just got 1, maybe 2 more battles to play to finish this one off. we'll just try to cast as many spells as we possibly can in the meantime and make it as difficult as we can for my opponent. We'll even gain a little bit more health, going up to almost 40. I'm not quite going to spend the cash to pick up these Aeons. I feel like on the final turn of the game, that's not really super worth it. And then I wind up moving around my Spellweaver into the first slot. I actually don't even need the Aeons on this board because we have the Merlin's hat already. So the Spellweavers aren't super necessary, or the Aeons rather aren't super necessary, and we can just put a Spellweaver in that first position. But we are still going to wind up getting our Aeon Slays up against this Summons comp, and yeah, we're doing pretty well off, but again, we are not going to be able to quite finish out my opponent. They're still going to have a little bit of health left, 7 health left, but now we can try to finish them off this turn. I'm going to pick up one more Spellweaver just so that way we've got a bunch of different mage things brewing, and then I am going to True Love's Kiss my Shoulder Fairies into a tier 6 character. Maybe that was a mistake because as a tier 7 or as a Shoulder Fairies, it was doing so much for us as a tier 5 character, I meant to say. And then I'll wind up tripling up on the Spellweaver. Again, we miss on that treasure map, but I did look for it 3 times off of these Spellweavers. I'm just going to make an Aeon triple just to finish off the turn. Maybe I figured the spell could be, or the treasure could be good for us, but we're just going to stick with the Green Knight. Actually, we're going to Shard and then True Love's Kiss it and then do a little bit more rolling. But we'll stick with the Bear Stain, I suppose, for the final comp. And putting my Spellweavers into slots 1 and 5, my biggest ones, so that way they are the most likely to get multiple attacks. Though against a Summons comp, it is a little bit tough to try to guarantee that. We are still going to have the stats though to be able to take my opponent out. That last fight was a little bit closer thanks to me throwing away my Shoulder Fairies, but it was still a pretty good performance from Zippy the Zombie, the new Wonder Waddle, I think, for my money. I'm curious what you guys think and what you think are the most fun and silly heroes to play in that kind of Wonder Waddle week vein. But that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.